Captain Trell stood at the wide viewing window of the science vessel Seeker, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the endless black void before him. Stars twinkled in the distance, each one carefully mapped and categorized by the Galactic Coalition's extensive database. His pale blue skin reflected the soft glow of the ship's control panels. "Captain, we're approaching the outer boundary of Sector 12, called out Navigator Lim from her station." Her voice was calm, but held a note of concern that Trell didn't miss. Trell nodded slowly. "Maintain course but reduce speed. I want to get good readings from this area." Sector 12 was not like other sectors. While most of Coalition space bustled with trade routes and colony ships, this remote corner of the galaxy remained mostly empty. Few ships came here, and those that did rarely lingered. It wasn't illegal to be here, not exactly, but Coalition guidelines strongly discouraged exploration beyond this point. Science Officer Vora looked up from her station, her slender fingers pausing above the scanning controls. Unlike Trell's blue skin, hers was a soft green with small patches that changed color with her mood. Right now, they were flickering yellow, a sign of nervousness. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns just beyond the boundary marker," she said. "They don't match any known Coalition signatures." This caught Trell's attention. He moved across the bridge with quick steps, his long tail swishing behind him for balance. "Show me," he ordered. Vora's screen displayed a pulsing red blob against the black background of space. The energy readings were weak but steady, like a heartbeat barely hanging on. "How long has it been there?" Trell asked. "Unknown, sir. It's at the very edge of our scanning range. We've never been this close to the boundary before." Security Chief Dax joined them, his bulky frame towering over both Trell and Vora. His species was known for their strength and protective nature, making them perfect for security roles. The thick plates covering his head and shoulders shifted as he leaned forward to examine the screen. "Captain," Dax rumbled, "this is dangerously close to the human quarantine zone." A hush fell over the bridge at the mention of humans. Though few in the crew had ever seen actual records from that time, everyone knew the stories. The Coalition educational programs made sure of that. Humans, the violent species, the unpredictable ones, the warriors who fought with such ferocity that the early Coalition had no choice but to contain them in their home sector hundreds of years ago. Some believed they had died out. Others thought they were still there, building their strength, waiting for the right moment to break free. Trell's outer eyes narrowed while his inner ones remained fixed on the screen. "Let's not jump to conclusions. Those are just old tales to scare younglings." "With respect, sir," Dax persisted, "the quarantine was established for good reason. Coalition historical records may be limited, but they all agree on one thing. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable. Their technology advanced too quickly, especially their weapons." Vora's patches shifted to a thoughtful blue. "But that was 300 cycles ago. Most species believed to be quarantined eventually make peaceful contact or, well, disappear. It's strange we've never heard anything from their sector since." Trell tapped his fingers against the console, a habit he had when making difficult decisions. The Seeker was a science vessel, after all. Its very purpose was to discover and learn. And yet, caution had kept him alive through many dangerous missions. "Lim, hold position here. Vora, continue scanning but do not broadcast any signals in that direction." He turned to Dax. "What do our regulations actually say about the boundary? Not the stories or warnings, the official rules." Dax accessed his datapad. Coalition Directive 87.3 states, "No Coalition vessel shall enter the designated human containment zone without explicit authorization from Command Central. Observation from beyond the boundary markers is permitted for scientific purposes only." "So we're not breaking any rules by studying it from here," Trell concluded with a slight smile. For the next 6 hours, the Seeker maintained its position while Vora's team gathered data on the strange energy signature. The crew grew increasingly curious as preliminary results came in. "Captain, I think I can enhance our scanner resolution, Vora said, excitement making her patches turn bright purple. If we redirect power from the secondary systems. Do it. Trell authorized without hesitation. The main screen flickered and then sharpened dramatically, zooming in on the source of the energy readings. Gasps echoed across the bridge. Is that a ship? Navigator Lim whispered. It was indeed a vessel, but unlike any coalition design they had ever seen. Its hull was dark and angular, with sharp edges that seemed designed to cut through space itself. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the Seeker, and despite its apparently dormant state, it radiated an aura of danger. Scan for life signs, Trell ordered, his voice barely a whisper. Vora shook her head. Nothing clear. The hull material is blocking most of our scanning capabilities, but there's something strange about the energy signature. It's fluctuating in a pattern that almost seems deliberate. A distress signal, Lim suggested, or a trap, Dax countered. Trell studied the image carefully. Coalition protocol was clear about unknown vessels. Report, observe, but do not engage without backup. Yet something about this discovery stirred his curiosity beyond normal professional interest. Communications sent an encrypted message to Coalition Science Division. Include all scan data and request further instructions. Trell's decision was the safe one, the correct one by all measures of protocol. The reply came faster than expected. Trell read it twice before addressing his crew. Science Division wants us to maintain observation but take no action until a specialized team arrives. Estimated time, 3 standard days. Dax nodded approvingly, but Vora's patches turned a disappointed gray. That night, while most of the crew slept, Trell reviewed the scanning data in his private quarters. Something about the vessel nagged at him. Its design, its position, just at the edge of forbidden space. It felt like it was waiting for something. Or someone. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open to reveal Vora, carrying her own datavat. Captain, I hope I'm not disturbing you, but I found something in the old archives that you need to see. She placed her pad next to his, displaying an ancient image. It showed a ship similar to the one they'd discovered. Same angular design, same threatening posture. Where did you get this? Trell asked sharply. Deep archives, pre-coalition military records. It's classified, but as Chief Science Officer I have access for research purposes. Vora's patches were now pulsing with excitement. According to the limited notes, this is a human warship. Class Destroyer. The records describe their fleet as the most formidable military force encountered in known space. Trell felt a chill run through his body. If this was truly a human warship, then the old legends might hold more truth than anyone had believed. Before he could respond, the ship's alarm blared to life. Dax's voice came through the communication system. Captain to the bridge immediately. The unknown vessel. It's powering up. Trell and Vora exchanged worried glances before rushing to the bridge. By the time they arrived, the main screen showed the dark ship now glowing with lines of blue energy running along its hull. It just started activating about 2 minutes ago, Dax reported. No apparent cause. Are we being scanned? Trell demanded. Lim checked her instruments. Not that we can detect, sir. Sir, Vora interrupted, her voice trembling slightly. I think it's detecting us. The energy pattern has changed since we've been watching it. I think it's waking up. The bridge fell silent as everyone stared at the screen. The ancient warship now pulsed with increasing power, its systems coming to life, one by one after what must have been centuries of dormancy. The legends, whispered Lim. They said humans never truly surrendered. That they just waited, playing the long game. Trell made his decision. All stations, yellow alert. Lim, plot a course that will keep us just outside their sensor range. Vora, continue monitoring but switch to passive scans only. He turned to his communications officer. Send an urgent update to Science Division. Tell them we may have discovered an active human warship. As the crew rushed to comply, Trell gazed at the awakening giant on the screen. If the legends about humans were true, if even half of the stories about their war capabilities were accurate, then the Galactic Coalition might soon face its greatest challenge in centuries. The whispers among stars had become a roar, and Captain Trell feared that everything was about to change. Captain Trell paced the bridge of the Seeker, his tail twitching with nervous energy. 20 hours had passed since they'd sent their urgent message to Science Division, and the human warship had continued its slow awakening. Systems across its massive hull lit up one by one, like a giant beast opening its eyes after a long sleep. Still no response from command. Trell asked, though he already knew the answer. Communications Officer Rek shook his head. Nothing, sir. The message was received, but they've gone silent. Dax stood with his arms crossed, his plate armor reflecting the red emergency lights. They're probably assembling a response fleet. This is exactly what Coalition emergency protocols are designed for. Vora looked up from her console, her green skin patches now a deep orange with concern. Sir, at the current rate of activation, the human vessel will be fully powered in approximately 8 hours. If it becomes mobile, and we're still waiting here. She didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone on the bridge understood the danger. I don't like this silence from command, Trell said, making his decision. We need more information. Prepare a scout ship. Dax stepped forward. Captain, you can't be suggesting. I'm not suggesting. Chief Dax, I'm ordering. Trell's 4 eyes fixed firmly on his security officer. We need to know what we're dealing with. Is this vessel a genuine threat, or just an abandoned relic that's triggered some automated systems? Sir, Coalition Directive 87.3 explicitly forbids. I'm well aware of the directive, Trell interrupted, but it also states that in situations of imminent danger, a captain may use discretion to ensure the safety of Coalition space. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew Trell was stretching the interpretation of the rules to their limit. I'll go, Vora volunteered suddenly, her patches shifting to a determined purple. As science officer, I'm best qualified to gather the data we need. Trell nodded. Dax, you'll accompany her. Take Medic Joel as well. We don't know what you might encounter. And if we encounter humans, sir? Dax asked grimly. Trell's outer eyes blinked slowly. According to official records, humans haven't been seen in Coalition space for 3 centuries. It's far more likely you'll find an automated system, or at worst, some kind of AI. 2 hours later, the small scout ship detached from the Seeker and made its careful approach toward the human warship. From this close, the vessel was even more intimidating, nearly 2 kilometers in length, with weapon ports visible along its dark hull. The name Vengeance was written in faded letters near what appeared to be the command section. Inside the scout ship, Vora checked her equipment one final time. Remember, we're only gathering information. No unnecessary risks. Dax nodded, though the set of his armor plates showed his discomfort. Medic Joel, a small 6-limbed being with specialized sensory appendages, chirped nervously as he organized his medical kit. I found what might be a maintenance airlock, Vora said, guiding their ship toward a smaller opening on the warship's underside. It's showing partial power. We may be able to dock there. The scout ship's systems indicated the airlock was functional, though operating on minimal power. After docking, they sealed their environment suits and prepared to enter. Atmosphere readings, Dax asked, checking his weapon. Joel waved his sensory limbs at the readings. Thin but breathable. Old air. No detectable pathogens. Let's move quickly, Vora said. I want to access their main computer if possible. That should tell us everything we need to know. The airlock opened with a groan of ancient mechanisms, revealing a dark corridor beyond. Their suit lights cut through the darkness, illuminating a passageway unlike any Coalition design they'd ever seen. The walls were angular and utilitarian, with none of the organic curves preferred by modern architects. Everything is so hard, Joel observed, touching a wall panel, designed for function with no consideration for form. Warships aren't meant to be beautiful, Dax muttered. They moved deeper into the vessel, following emergency lighting that had activated with the ship's systems. The corridors were larger than needed for beings of their size, suggesting the humans had been taller than most Coalition species. This way, Vora directed, consulting the scanner she programmed to look for central computer systems. I'm detecting significant power readings 2 decks up. As they climbed through the ship using maintenance ladders, they passed various rooms, crew quarters with simple beds built into walls, storage areas with supplies long since turned to dust, and what appeared to be weapons lockers, now empty. It feels like everyone just left, Joel said, his voice hushed. Or died, Dax added grimly. Finally, they reached a sealed door with faded lettering that Vora's translator identified as Command Center. The door was partially powered, stuck halfway open, allowing them to squeeze through. The Bridge of the Vengeance was a circular room filled with control stations, all dark except for one terminal that pulsed with blue light. But what caught their attention was the transparent cylinder in the center of the room, filled with a cloudy liquid and containing what appeared to be a body. Is that? Joel moved closer, his medical scanners extended. A human. Vora breathed, her patches turning white with shock. The being in the cylinder was tall and bipedal, with pale skin and dark hair that floated in the preservation fluid. Various tubes and wires connected to its body, and a small panel on the side of the cylinder displayed readings in human script. It's a stasis chamber, Joel chirped excitedly after scanning it. And it's functional. This human is alive. Dax stepped back, raising his weapon instinctively. Alive. After 300 years. Vora moved to the active console, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. This must be why the ship is waking up. Some kind of automated revival protocol has been triggered. Her fingers worked quickly over the unfamiliar interface. I think I can access basic ship functions from here. The screen changed, displaying text that her translator struggled to process. Ship status. Life support at 42% and rising. Weapons systems offline. Stasis revival sequence initiated 24 hours ago. Can you stop it? Dax asked urgently. I don't know if I should, Vora replied, her patches now shifting between colors in her confusion. This could be the scientific discovery of the century, the living human. The living human soldier, Dax corrected, from a warship called Vengeance. Their argument was interrupted by a hissing sound from the stasis chamber. The liquid was draining, and the body inside twitched slightly. It's too late anyway, Joel noted, scanning continuously. The revival process is in its final stage. Vora backed away from the console and joined the others in a defensive half-circle around the chamber. As the last of the fluid drained, the front panel slid open, and the human collapsed forward. Joel, acting on medical instinct, rushed forward to catch the falling being. Despite being twice his size, the human was surprisingly light, weakened from centuries in stasis. Careful, Vora warned, but her scientific curiosity pulled her forward as well. The human coughed violently, expelling stasis fluid from its lungs. Its eyes, only 2, unlike Trell's 4, blinked open, revealing irises of a startling blue color. It looked at each of them in turn, confusion evident on its face. Then it spoke, its voice rough from centuries of disuse. The translator in their suits took a moment to process the ancient language. Who are you? Where is the fleet? Vora stepped forward cautiously. I am Science Officer Vora of the Galactic Coalition vessel Seeker. We found your ship at the edge of restricted space. The human's eyes widened, and it struggled to sit up. Coalition? You formed it. Did it work then? Did we stop them? Before Vora could answer, Dax cut in. Identify yourself, human. The being drew itself up with visible effort, some deeply ingrained discipline evident in its posture despite its weakened state. Commander Stone, Earth Defense Force, 1st Fleet, Tactical Officer of the EDF Vengeance. The human looked around, disorientation clear on its face. How long? How long was I in stasis? Vora and Dax exchanged glances. It was Joel who answered, his medical ethics compelling honesty. Based on our records of human history, approximately 300 of your years. Commander Stone's face went even paler, and for a moment, Vora thought the human might collapse again. Instead, Stone gripped the edge of the stasis pod, knuckles turning white. 300 years, Stone whispered. Then everyone is gone. The human's reaction wasn't what any of them expected. There was no anger, no violence, just a profound sadness that made Vora's patches turn a sympathetic blue. Commander Stone, she said gently, we have many questions. Your people have become something of a legend in Coalition space. Stone looked up, surprise replacing the grief momentarily. A legend? Yes, Vora continued. But we need to understand, why is this ship awakening now, after all this time? Stone's expression hardened suddenly, the sadness giving way to alarm. Awakening. The vengeance is activating. The human grabbed Vora's arm with unexpected strength. You need to tell me exactly where we are. Now. The urgency in Stone's voice sent a chill through Vora's body. Whatever had caused this warship to lie dormant for centuries, whatever had prompted its recent awakening, she suddenly felt certain they were about to break through much more than just a physical barrier. Captain, they found a living human. Trell nearly dropped his data pad at Navigator Lim's announcement. Repeat that, he ordered, rushing to the main communication console. Science Officer Vora reports they found a human officer in stasis. The being is awake and talking. Lim's voice trembled slightly. They're bringing it back to the Seeker. A wave of murmurs swept across the bridge. A living human. A creature most believed was merely a cautionary tale told to younglings, or at best, an extinct species. Security protocols. Maximum level. Trell ordered. I want our best guards in the shuttle bay. Medical teams standing by too. Within an hour, the scout ship returned to the Seeker. Captain Trell stood at the front of the welcoming party, his posture stiff and formal. The inner airlock door opened to reveal Vora and Dax, supporting between them a tall figure unlike any being Trell had seen before. The human was roughly the height of Dax, but without the protective plating. It had only 2 eyes, a strange patch of hair on the top of its head, and skin that was a pale color Trell couldn't quite name. It wore a dark uniform with faded insignia on the shoulders. Captain, Vora nodded formally. May I present Commander Stone of the Earth Defense Force? The human straightened with visible effort, no longer leaning on Vora and Dax. Its eyes, sharp and alert despite its physical weakness, scanned the assembled crew. Your vessel is most impressive, Stone said, voice still rough. Though smaller than I expected for a Coalition flagship. The Seeker is a science vessel, not a warship, Trell explained, surprised by how normal the human appeared. He had expected something more monstrous, given the legends. I am Captain Trell. You are aboard my ship as a guest, but I must insist on certain security measures until we understand your situation better. Stone nodded, seeming to understand. I would do the same, Captain. But there are urgent matters we must discuss. My ship will be examined thoroughly by Coalition experts, Trell interrupted. For now, you need medical attention and rest. In the medical bay, Joel and the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Pela, examined Stone with fascinated interest. The humans submitted to their tests with surprising patience. Remarkable biology, Pela muttered, reviewing the scan results. Highly adaptive immune system, impressive muscle density despite the long stasis, and look at this brain activity, far more complex than our records suggested. Stone sat up on the examination table. I need to speak with your captain about my ship. It's important. All in good time, Pela replied soothingly. You've been in stasis for 3 centuries. Your body needs to adjust. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Trell received the news he'd been dreading. Coalition Command has responded. Sir, Communications Officer Rek announced. Priority 1 directive. We are to secure the human vessel and transport the human specimen to Coalition headquarters immediately. A military escort is already on its way. Specimen? Vora asked, her patches turning an indignant red. Commander Stone is a sentient being, not a laboratory sample. Trell sighed. Orders are orders, Vora. The Coalition takes the human situation very seriously. Their protocols for this scenario were established centuries ago. But sir, Vora pressed, don't you find it strange that Command responded so quickly once we mentioned finding a human? Almost as if they were expecting it. Before Trell could answer, the ship's alarms blared to life. Captain, Navigator Lim called out. 3 ships just appeared at the edge of our sensor range. They're not Coalition designs. Trell rushed to the main view screen. The ships were sleek and predatory, moving with an aggressive grace that set his instincts on edge. Ravagers, Dax growled, having just returned to the bridge. They must have detected the energy signature from the human ship. The Ravagers were a persistent threat along the Coalition's borders, pirates and marauders who preyed on isolated outposts and vessels. Fast, deadly, and without mercy. Battle stations. Trell ordered. Shields at maximum. Sir, we're a science vessel, Lim reminded him nervously. Our defensive capabilities are limited. Trell's mind raced. The military escort was still hours away, and the Seeker stood no chance against 3 Ravager ships. His gaze fell on the human warships still visible on their long-range scanners. The door to the bridge slid open, and Commander Stone entered, followed by a protesting Pila. Captain, I couldn't stop. Let the human speak, Trell ordered, surprising himself. Stone moved to the view screen, studying the approaching Ravager vessels with a professional eye. Hostile forces. Ravagers. Pirates and killers, Trell explained. They'll destroy us and take whatever they can salvage. Stone nodded, as if confirming something. Captain, I need to return to the Vengeance. Impossible, Dax objected. Coalition orders are clear. The human ship is to be secured and we'll all be dead before your Coalition forces arrive. Stone interrupted. Your vessel cannot withstand an attack from those ships, but mine can. Your ship has been dormant for centuries, Trell pointed out. The revival sequence wasn't random. Stone explained urgently. The Vengeance detected a specific energy signature, one we were programmed to respond to. I don't know why it activated now, but I do know the ship's defense systems are fully operational. Vora stepped forward. Captain, I believe Commander Stone. When we were aboard, the ship was continuing its activation sequence. The weapon systems were next in line for power-up. Trell hesitated, caught between Coalition orders and survival. Ravager ships will be in weapons range in 6 minutes, Lim announced. Captain, Stone said, locking eyes with Trell, I understand your caution. My people's reputation clearly precedes us. But right now, I'm offering to help. Let me return to my ship. And if I do, Trell asked, what happens after you've dealt with the Ravagers? Will you turn the Vengeance's weapons on us next? Stone's expression remained steady. If I wanted to harm the Coalition, I would simply wait and let the Ravagers destroy you first. The logic was sound, but Trell needed more. Why would you help us? We're strangers to you. Because that's what the Earth Defense Force was created for, Stone replied simply. To protect. If your Coalition formed after the war, then you're what we fought to save. Something in the human's words rang true. Trell made his decision. Vora, take Commander Stone back to the Vengeance. Quickly. Dax started to object, but Trell silenced him with a gesture. That's an order, Chief. 10 minutes later, Vora and Stone were aboard the scout ship, racing back toward the Vengeance. The Ravager vessels had begun their attack, run on the Seeker, forcing Trell to execute evasive maneuvers that would buy them only minutes at most. Do you really think you can get your ship operational in time? Vora asked as they approached the massive warship. The Vengeance has been waiting for this moment for 300 years, Stone replied, eyes fixed on the approaching hull. She won't let us down. Once aboard, Stone moved with surprising speed through the corridors, heading straight for the command center. The ship seemed brighter now, more systems online than during their first visit. When they reached the bridge, Stone went directly to the central command chair. Vengeance, Command Authorization. Stone, Marcus J., Commander, Authorization Code Bravo Echo 729. The ship's systems responded immediately, console lights flaring to life across the bridge. A calm, feminine voice spoke from hidden speakers. Commander Stone, welcome back. Revival protocols complete. All systems online. Threat detected. Target analysis. Stone ordered. 3 hostile vessels, classification unknown, attacking a friendly ship. Weapons charging. Awaiting orders. Stone glanced at Vora, who stood watching in amazement. You might want to hold on to something. The deck hummed beneath their feet as the massive engines of the Vengeance awakened fully. Outside, the dark hull blazed with blue energy as weapon ports opened along its length. On the Seeker's bridge, the crew watched in awe as the human warship came to life. The Vengeance is moving, Lynn reported, wonder in her voice. It's positioning itself between us and the Ravagers. The Ravager ships, sensing a new and greater threat, broke off their attack on the Seeker and turned toward the Vengeance. Energy weapons fired, striking the massive warship's hull. Direct hits on the human vessel, Dax announced, unable to hide his satisfaction. But the satisfaction turned to shock as the sensors showed no damage to the Vengeance. Impossible, Dax whispered. Those were concentrated energy blasts. Nothing can withstand that without showing some damage. The Vengeance seemed to pause, as if assessing its attackers. Then it responded. Beams of brilliant white light lanced out from the human warship, striking each Ravager vessel with perfect precision. The pirates' shields flared and died in seconds. A second volley struck their engines, crippling them instantly. By the stars, Trell breathed. The entire exchange had taken less than 30 seconds. The Vengeance's weapons went silent, leaving the 3 Ravager ships drifting, disabled but intact. The communication system chimed, and Stone's face appeared on the main screen. Captain Trell, the threat has been neutralized. The Ravager crews are alive but unable to continue fighting. I believe your coalition forces can handle them from here. Trell stared at the screen, then at the disabled Ravager fleet, and finally at the massive warship that had just demonstrated power beyond anything in the modern coalition arsenal. Now he understood why the old legends had warned about humans, and why, perhaps, the coalition had been so quick to order the Vengeance destroyed. The galaxy's most dangerous predator had awakened, and Trell had helped make it happen. The coalition military escort arrived 6 hours after the battle with the Ravagers. 3 sleek warships surrounded the Seeker and the Vengeance, their weapons systems on standby, but clearly ready. Captain Trell stood in his formal uniform as Admiral Gorn transported aboard. The Admiral was from an old warrior species, tall and imposing with a crest of bony ridges along his skull and arms covered in ceremonial battle scars. Captain Trell. Gorn's voice rumbled through the meeting room. You've caused quite a stir at Coalition headquarters. Admiral, we were attacked by Ravagers. The human ship saved us, Trell explained. So I've been told. Gorn's expression remained stern, and in doing so, you awakened the very thing the Coalition has feared for 3 centuries. Commander Stone sat calmly at the far end of the table, flanked by armed guards. The human appeared unworried by the Admiral's arrival or the weapons pointed in their direction. I request permission to speak, Admiral, Stone said. Gorn looked at the human with undisguised suspicion. Granted, though I'm not sure what you could say that would change anything. Stone leaned forward. You fear humans. That much is clear from how I've been treated since awakening. What I don't understand is why. When I went into stasis, the coalition between species was just forming. An alliance to face a common enemy. The official records state that humans were quarantined for the safety of all other species. Gorn replied. Your technology advanced too quickly, especially your weapons. Your species was deemed too violent, too unpredictable. Stone's expression hardened. That's not what happened. Admiral. Vora interrupted, her patches turning a determined purple. I've been conducting research since Commander Stone awakened. I've found inconsistencies in our historical records about humans. Science Officer Vora, Gorn mourned, questioning official coalition history is dangerous territory. But necessary if the history is wrong, Vora countered boldly. The activation of the Vengeance wasn't random. Its systems were responding to a specific energy pattern, one that doesn't match any known coalition or Ravager signature. Trell looked at his science officer with new respect. What are you suggesting, Vora? I think we need to know what really happened 300 years ago, she said, and I believe Commander Stone deserves to know as well. Gorn's face darkened with anger, but before he could speak, the ship's communication system chimed with an urgent signal. Priority message from Coalition Headquarters, announced Communications Officer Rek. For Admiral Gorn's eyes only. The Admiral stepped away to read the message on a private screen. When he returned, his expression had changed completely. It seems, he said slowly, that recent events have forced the High Council's hand. He nodded to one of his aides, who produced a small data crystal. I am authorized to access sealed historical records from the early Coalition period. The tension in the room was palpable as Gorn inserted the crystal into the conference room's main display. Ancient data scrolled across the screen, much of it in formats so old that the Seeker's computers struggled to translate them. These are the true records of humanity's last days, Gorn explained, his voice solemn. Classified at the highest level for 3 centuries. The screen displayed images that shocked everyone present. Vast fleets of ships, human and alien alike, engaged in battle against a force of darkness that seemed to swallow light itself. Entire planets reduced to lifeless husks, and at the center of it all, a vast cloud-like entity that the records identified as the Void. What is this? Trell whispered. Stone's face had gone pale. The war. The real war. Not against humans, Gorn confirmed, but against the Void, a sentient cosmic entity that consumed entire star systems. It was drawn to advanced civilizations, particularly those with high energy outputs. Stone stood up, the guards tensing around him. Earth was targeted because our technology had advanced so quickly. The Void saw us as a threat, or perhaps just a good meal. Yes, Gorn nodded. According to these records, humanity's homeworld was one of the first targets, but instead of falling, your people fought back with unexpected strength. More images appeared on screen, human vessels forming defensive lines around planets that weren't even their own, sacrificing themselves to allow alien civilian ships to escape. When early coalition species first encountered humans, they feared you, Gorn continued. Your adaptability, your tenacity, your willingness to fight against impossible odds. These were terrifying traits to more peaceful species. But when the Void came, these same traits made humans the frontline defenders for all sentient life. Vora's patches had turned a deep blue of sadness as she studied the records. The quarantine zone wasn't to keep humans in. It was to mark where the final battle took place. Stone finished, voice hollow with realization. Earth and the surrounding systems. The last stand. Gorn nodded grimly. Humanity sacrificed itself to contain the Void. The early coalition couldn't defeat it. Only humans had developed weapons that could harm it. In the final battle, the combined human fleet created a dimensional barrier, trapping the Void and themselves inside. But why hide the truth? Trell asked. Why pretend humans were quarantined as a threat? Fear and politics, Gorn said simply. The early coalition leaders feared that acknowledging their debt to humanity would weaken their authority. Over time, the lie became official history, and the truth was buried deeper with each generation. Stone stood perfectly still, absorbing the knowledge that their entire civilization had been erased from history, their sacrifice rewritten as a threat. The vengeance wasn't just a warship, Stone said finally. It was an insurance policy, one of several ships sent out before the final battle, placed in dormant mode to awaken if the void ever returned. Gorn's expression grew grave. Which brings us to the present crisis. The energy signature that awakened your ship. Coalition deep space sensors have detected it at the edges of known space. The High Council believed it was a new form of Ravager technology. But now, it's the void, Stone stated flatly. It's coming back. The screen changed to show current stellar maps with a dark, cloud-like formation slowly moving inward from the galactic rim, exactly matching the ancient recordings of the void. But if the barrier contained it, Trell began. Contained, not destroyed, Stone corrected. The vengeance was programmed to recognize the void's unique energy pattern. That's why the ship began awakening. It sensed what your scientists couldn't identify. Admiral Gorn looked at the human with new respect. The High Council has authorized me to offer you full coalition cooperation. Commander Stone, if the void has returned, we face extinction without your help. I'll need access to all coalition technology developed since my time, Stone said, immediately shifting to planning mode. And we need to locate any other dormant human vessels that might have survived. Wait, Vora interrupted, her scientific mind racing ahead. If the vengeance was an insurance policy, there must be more to it than just the ship itself. Commander Stone, was your vessel carrying any special weapons? Any technology specifically designed to combat the void? Stone nodded slowly. The vengeance carries the complete database of Earth's final defensive technologies, including the dimensional barrier generator that trapped the void the first time. Then we have a chance, Trell said, hope creeping into his voice. A small one, Stone cautioned. The barrier generator was never meant to be deployed by a single ship. It was designed for a fleet working in coordination. Admiral Gorn straightened to his full height. Then you shall have a fleet, Commander. The Coalition may have forgotten the truth about humanity, but we remember how to fight when necessary. As the meeting continued, plans forming and orders being issued, Vora moved to stand beside Stone, who was studying the void's approach pattern on a side screen. I'm sorry, she said quietly, about what happened to your people, about how history remembered you. Stone's expression remained focused, but something softened around the eyes. History doesn't matter now. What matters is stopping the void from doing to your people what it did to mine. You're not angry about the lies. Stone looked at her, then at the busy room filled with alien species working together, the coalition that humanity had died to protect. My people fought so that life could continue, Stone said simply. Looking at all of you, I'd say we won. As the coalition prepared for war against an ancient enemy, the legends of humanity were being rewritten once again. Not as monsters to be feared, but as heroes whose greatest battle was about to begin anew. 3 weeks after the truth about humanity was revealed, the coalition faced its greatest crisis. The void had crossed into coalition space, consuming an outer colony world and leaving nothing but a lifeless husk behind. Panic spread through the galaxy as the ancient enemy returned. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Commander Stone studied the tactical display showing coalition fleet positions. The massive human warship now served as the command center for the defense operation, with Captain Trell and Science Officer Vora permanently assigned as liaison officers. The coalition forces are in position, Trell reported, but their weapons had almost no effect during the first encounter. Stone nodded grimly. The void absorbs energy. Conventional weapons only make it stronger. Then what can hurt it? Admiral Gorn asked. The once suspicious military leader had become one of Stone's strongest allies after seeing the classified records. This, Stone said, bringing up schematics on the main screen. Phase-shifted quantum disruptors. They don't attack the void directly. They destabilize the dimensional fabric that allows it to exist in our space. Vora studied the complex designs, her patches shifting through colors of concentration. This technology is centuries beyond our current capabilities. Yes, Stone agreed, but the Vengeance carries everything needed to modify your fleet's weapons. The difficult part will be activating the barrier network. During the past weeks, Coalition scout ships had located 7 more dormant human vessels scattered throughout the galaxy, each placed strategically and programmed to awaken if the void returned. Only 3 had functioning stasis chambers with surviving crew. The rest had failed over the centuries, leaving only the automated systems operational. "Commander," a communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from Coalition headquarters." The screen changed to show High Counselor Maz, the elderly leader of the Coalition's governing body. His species was known for their long memories and wisdom. "Commander Stone," Maz began formally, "the Coalition Defense Council has reviewed your battle plan. I must express concerns about the risk to our populated worlds." Stone's expression remained calm, though Trell noted how the human's hands tightened slightly. "Counselor, we've been over this. The 8 human ships must form a specific geometric pattern around the void to activate the dimensional barrier. That means drawing it to these coordinates, which are dangerously close to the Traxian system with its 5 billion inhabitants," Maz pointed out. "The void will reach the Traxian system regardless," Stone countered. "At least this way, we have a chance to stop it before it feeds again." After more debate, the Council reluctantly approved the plan. As the transmission ended, Stone turned to face the bridge crew. "Begin final preparations. We move against the void in 12 hours. Later, in the ship's observation lounge, Vora found Stone staring out at the assembled Coalition fleet. Over 200 vessels of various sizes, all being modified with human technology. "Quite a sight," Vora said, standing beside the human. "Yes," Stone agreed. 300 years ago, we never imagined so many species working together like this. "Are you sure this will work?" Vora asked, her patches revealing the worry she tried to keep from her voice. Stone's face showed the weight of responsibility. The barrier contained the void before, but it cost Earth and 27 colony worlds. The Vengeance was sent out because our scientists believed the void might eventually break free. And if we fail, then the Coalition falls, just as humanity did. Stone turned to face her. "But I don't intend to fail, Vora. Not while I still have a duty to fulfill." The next day, the Coalition fleet moved into position. The Vengeance led the formation, flanked by the other human vessels that had been recovered. Their black hulls stood out starkly against the more colorful Coalition ships. On the Coalition homeworlds, billions watched on public screens as humanity's forgotten defenders prepared to face the enemy that had nearly destroyed them centuries before. "The void has changed course," Trell announced, studying the sensor readings. "It's following the path we projected. It's hunting," Stone explained. "The modifications to our engines make them appear like especially tempting meals." "All ships report ready," Admiral Gorn said from his position at the Auxiliary Command Station. Stone took a deep breath. "Begin Phase 1. The Coalition fleet spread out in a carefully planned formation, creating what appeared to be gaps and weaknesses. The void, a vast dark cloud that seemed to absorb light and matter, moved toward these apparent vulnerabilities. "It's working," Vora whispered as the enormous entity followed the path they had laid out. When the void reached the center of their formation, Stone gave the command, "All ships, activate quantum disruptors." Beams of strange, shimmering energy lanced out from the modified Coalition vessels, striking the void from all directions. The entity convulsed, its darkness rippling as if in pain. "Phase 2, Stone ordered. Human vessels, move to barrier positions." The 8 human warships broke formation, pushing through the edges of the void to take up specific positions within its mass. Their hulls glowed with blue energy as ancient systems, designed specifically for this moment, came fully online. Inside the Vengeance, warning lights flashed as the ship's systems strained. Hull integrity at 65%, an officer reported. The void is attempting to consume our energy shields. Maintain position, Stone commanded. Activate barrier generators on my mark. The void seemed to sense the danger, contracting and then expanding violently. 3 coalition ships were caught in the expansion and simply disappeared, consumed instantly. We're losing containment on the starboard flank, Admiral Gorn warned. All coalition ships, fall back to secondary positions, Stone ordered. The human vessels will handle Phase 3. As the coalition fleet retreated to a safer distance, the 8 human warships remained, now completely surrounded by the void's darkness. Barrier generators at full power, Stone announced. Initiating dimensional lock in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Brilliant white energy erupted from each human vessel, forming connecting lines between them. The geometric pattern they created began to glow, brightening until it was painful to look at even on the view screens. The void is collapsing inward, Vora reported, watching the sensor readings with amazement. The barrier is working. But the victory was not without cost. Alarms blared across the Vengeance's bridge as systems began to fail under the strain. Generator overload imminent, the ship's computer warned. Catastrophic failure in 60 seconds. Stone looked around at the bridge crew, aliens who had become comrades in the past weeks. All personnel to escape pods. Captain Trell, please ensure everyone evacuates. What about you? Trell asked, already knowing the answer. Someone needs to maintain the barrier until it's stable, Stone replied calmly. Just like last time. Vora stepped forward, her patches a determined purple. I'm staying to help. This isn't your fight, Stone argued. It is now, she replied simply. We're coalition, and the coalition stands together. In the end, 5 volunteers remained aboard each human vessel, 1 human awakened from stasis, surrounded by coalition officers who refused to leave. Together, they worked to hold the barrier stable as their ships disintegrated around them. From the safety of the coalition fleet, Admiral Gorn watched as the 8 human vessels glowed white-hot, their hulls breaking apart even as the void collapsed further. Energy surge, a sensor officer shouted. Everyone brace. A blinding flash lit up space as the barrier generators reached critical mass. When the light faded, the void was gone. And so were the human ships. In their place was a shimmering distortion, like a heat mirage in space. What is that? Gorn demanded. A science officer studied the readings. It appears to be a stable dimensional barrier, sir. Similar to the one that contained the void for 3 centuries, but stronger. Much stronger. Weeks later, at a ceremony on the coalition capital world, High Counselor Maz unveiled a monument. 8 pillars of black stone arranged in the same pattern as the human ships had formed. Today, we correct a historical wrong, Maz announced to the assembled billions watching across the galaxy. 300 years ago, humanity sacrificed everything to save the coalition. Last month, the last survivors of that noble species did so again. Captain Trell stood at attention beside Admiral Gorn as the monument was dedicated. The inscription, written in both Coalition Standard and recovered human English, read simply, "They stood between darkness and light. Twice they gave everything so others might live." As the ceremony concluded, Trell noticed Vora standing apart from the crowd. Against all odds, the escape pod from the Vengeance had been found drifting near the barrier, with Vora and Commander Stone both alive inside, though badly injured. Stone, now recovering in a coalition medical facility, had declined to attend the ceremony. "How is the commander?" Trell asked as he approached Vora. "Physically, improving," she replied, her patches a thoughtful blue. "Emotionally, it's harder. Stone is the last human now. The others didn't survive." Trell nodded in understanding. "What will happen to them?" "The Coalition has offered Stone full citizenship and any position they want," Vora said. "But the commander has asked for a ship instead." "A ship? What for? Vora's patches shifted to a hopeful green. The barrier that trapped the void 300 years ago eventually weakened because the human technology was abandoned and forgotten. Stone wants to ensure that doesn't happen again. So, not an ending but a beginning, Trell mused. Yes, Vora agreed. Stone believes there may be other human outposts, places far beyond Coalition space where their ships might have gone before the final battle. As night fell on the capital city, the monument's 8 pillars began to glow with a soft blue light, the same color as the human ship's engines. Across the Coalition, the stories would be told again, but differently this time. Not legends to be feared, but legends to inspire. And somewhere out in the vastness of space, a lone ship prepared for a journey to find what remained of humanity, guided by the last defender of Earth, and crewed by volunteers from the Coalition who had learned that some legends were worth keeping alive.